What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. All Day Bets, Alex Jacobs, Manny, Ruffin, and to the TikTok commenters out there, I guess I'm leaning into it at this point. You can call me Kenny Pickett. You can call me Kenny Pickett.
Ooh.
I can't believe how many times I'm starting to see these comments of I'm Kenny Pickett's doppelganger. And for the OGs out there, one of the first videos on TikTok that actually blew up was when I was shitting on Kenny Pickett for not playing in his bowl game.
You were.
So it's kind of a full circle moment for me. The disrespect has now led to respect.
What if he makes your career? What if you make it off the fact that people start calling you Kenny Pickett, then like one day you do like a Kenny Pickett meetup?
Bro, if we ever
are you gonna tell him? Are you gonna tell him?
Absolutely. I was just thinking about that. I literally was just thinking about that. If we ever have like Kenny Pickett on the pod, or we ever see him out there or whatever, I literally will tell him like, they think I look like you, but the first time
I talked about you.
It was bad. It was bad. Maybe I did have money on Pitt, but we won't go that far. The pick six, let's not forget the pick six by Michigan State to end the game.
I would tell him I bet on Pitt. I was a little emotional.
And it was also
feelings.
Pitt. That was one of their biggest bowl games in like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years or ever, whatever it was, whatever the stat was. So that was also pretty frustrating. Last night though, I was in full DGen mode, so I played a little bit of blackjack.
I like that.
Took my
Not
winnings.
really, but I like it.
I was only like a 20-minute just like battle for a little bit. Took my winnings plus what I started with and put it on like a minus 155. Like couple guys to do very simplistic things in
what sport?
Basketball.
Okay.
And then easy cash. And I'm like, okay, so
I
now I have some juice.
Nice.
To
I hate
like
that
move
for you,
forward.
but
Yeah,
nice.
like I don't.
You gotta stop doing that.
I don't normally like betting like that because like that's how you get cooked, especially in like the National Blowout Association. Like that's when things can happen. So you got to be careful with that. But that was a fun because our show on Monday. Remember I said I had a college basketball parlay, and you were like, don't bet on those kids, man.
Bro, Kentucky won. Like,
guess who had Tennessee in a parlay last leg, bro? It was like 6 legs.
Do that? No, why'd you do that?
And you know what's even funnier?
I was telling you one of them was gonna lose.
Saturday, I lost on Kentucky because I had them to win.
Right.
At Vandy, and then I faded them.
You get upset by Vandy. It's the comeback spot, college kid.
And then the worst part was we went to the bowling league on Wednesday, and I'm wearing the hat that Sam got me when he went to Kentucky, the Kentucky hat, the blue hat that I have. And then Aim comes up to me, he's like, wait, I just have to ask. So you lost on Kentucky on Saturday, and then you just lost by fading them yesterday, meaning Tuesday, and now you're wearing the hat today? That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to flip the mojo. Trying to flip the script.
Get on the train,
we got a big slate tomorrow. I got to get back on. It's fun. I haven't really been as focused on betting college basketball, and probably I've maybe had one or two slips like during like the latter half of the football season. But now I'm really starting to actually bet it more. So I'm like, maybe this is like where I can flip the switch. Get the mojo right for college basketball. Something like that. You know what I mean? We have a lot of things to discuss today. All-star snubbing list and all that good stuff. And some Saturday stuff. So let's get into our Saturday slate. Is that where you wanted to go? Where did you want to go?
Well, I wanted to highlight my guy from last night. Rob Dillingham.
Okay, go ahead.
I ain't get to talk NBA all year. This is somebody I've been lobbying for. I mean, have I talked about King Dillingham last year when he was at Kentucky? I feel like I did, or just
I believe it was mentioned.
Yeah, just a lot. That was a cash cow for me when he was in college. But last night I had a career high 19 points. He cashed the 15 plus at plus 390, which if you've been targeting Rob Dillingham projects, he's been priced way too low. Had 8 assists as well, so he had to cash that, which probably was all too. This year, Rob Dillingham, when playing 20 plus minutes, is averaging 15, 7.5, 2.5 3-pointers made. Listen to these splits on 54% from the field and 50% from the three. Timberwolves need that spark. Mike Conley's a little older guy. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? But that spark with Dillingham off the bench could be something for the Timberwolves to look for the rest of the year. I think it could be dangerous. Ant had 36 in that game as well. Cashed his. I think 35 plus had to be around plus 500. And he also had 11 assists that game. Also cashed double plus 400. Shout out to my guys in Minnesota for snapping. Hopefully we get out the play-in. I don't want to see y'all in a play-in, dog. It's not where I want to see my Timberwolves. But yeah, that's what I had for last night.
I mean, I need to just be locked in on tailing you for NBA
Bro,
props.
Rob Dillingham, man, that's my guy.
Like you're finding
it's my guy.
Props, which are kind of the things that we have had conversations about post NFL season.
Yeah.
About finding more NBA props, less of like, me being a homer, Knicks money line, Knicks spread.
Facts.
Josh Hart triple double. Like finding those. I don't want to say sneaky props, but I think people nowadays are a little bit timid to take NBA player props.
You got to pay attention, bro.
Compared to 2021, 2022.
Yeah, you got to pay attention, bro, because they are real sneaky now. Guys getting subbed out of games, leaving the game early. They keeping them on a live line. They real sneaky now, bro.
Random thought. I just saw this pop up on the Twitter feed. Ben Fox on Twitter. He says, interesting Super Bowl wager at Bet Rivers. 51,000 on there not to be an octopus, which is the same player to score a touchdown and the 2-point conversion. At minus 3,335 odds, that bet would win $1,530. What the fuck's the point?
I think that's a horrible bet.
Obviously. 51,000?
There's so many candidates in this game that could 1,000% get octopus. Saquon Barkley.
Jalen
Hurts could be easier. He already did it. He already did it. I think Kareem Hunt could get an octopus if it came down to it.
Dang.
Why can't Travis Kelce get an octopus? Imagine they get one to score, play after, maybe to tie the game at the end of the game. Why wouldn't he go back to Kelce?
True that.
Why wouldn't they go back to A.J. Brown if you already scored to tie the game? Like, there's way too many people that could get an octopus.
Low key, bro. Xavier Worthy on an end around, maybe.
I have him in the notes today for something.
I have him too.
For something that's
I have him too.
A little spicy. One thing I want to say too, I saw this on Twitter. Do we take this and follow the WNBA this year? Hold on, because I was telling you about how Jewel Lloyd got traded to the Aces. I think they're like plus 470 win the chip, so I wasn't really paying attention to them. But breaking, as of I think today, 3-time WNBA champion Natasha Howard will sign with the Indiana Fever as a free agent. The former Defensive Player of the Year and 2-time All-Star returns to the franchise that drafted her to link up with Caitlin Clark. The Fever are plus 800 to win WNBA. Should we take a look at that? Should we get Caitlin some help? The team gets a little older, more experience.
I know there was a lot of wagers on them last year. I know Portnoy had a huge wager on them to win the chip last year.
Do we want to? I mean, I know Jewel Lloyd's in Las Vegas, so that they probably won it, but sheesh. New York's still tough, but sheesh, Caitlin got some help. A Defensive Player of the Year type player too.
Not competing in the All-Star game. There was some noise about that.
She might come back with a vengeance this year. I might take a look at that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
ESPN was talking about that. Not that she moves the needle, she is the needle.
I agree.
So let's give her some grace. She doesn't have to compete in this. But people wanted to just see her do the 3-point contest.
If she is the needle, I think we should see her in it. But on Saturday, so the Knicks. One thing I was looking into, you sent me a tweet too about the narratives. Y'all had 3 straight wins. I think it was the Kings, Nuggets, and I forget who other tough team you guys beat that was in there. Because there was a narrative that the Knicks can't beat good teams. So I wanted to go into the validity of that statement. What I found was, and this is how NBA narratives work. When something latches on in the beginning of the year, it never goes away. So this is how the Knicks have fared versus top 10-ish teams. Boston, first game of the season, you guys lost 132 to 139. So didn't cover, obviously didn't win. Cavs, I believe that was the 3rd or 4th game of the season. You guys lost 110 to 104. Didn't know who the Cavs were going to be. Obviously a good team. You want to still win there, but no one knew that. At that point, didn't know the Cavs were going to be a 30-something plus one team in 40-something games in the season. No one knew that. So some grace. Then you lost to Houston. I believe the 10th, 11th game of the season, 109-97. And that's when the narrative started flying. You know what I'm saying? And to me, I was like, okay, let's look into this even more. Because as the schedule progressed on, y'all did go 0-2 versus OKC, but I think there's grace from that, I would hope. 1-1 versus Minnesota. 1-0 versus Memphis, which was recent.
37-point win.
2-0 versus the Bucks. This is straight up and against the spread. And 2-0 versus the Nuggets. So you guys are 6-6 straight up and against the spread versus top 10 teams. There's some teams obviously haven't been in there. The Lakers, which was on Sunday. The Clippers look a little better, which was in there too. But there's a monster matchup coming up on Saturday versus the Lakers. Now there's no AD. That's the NBA, you know what I mean, problem a lot of people have. What they did is a more intriguing matchup, but even so, this spread might be a little juiced up. No AD at the crib. Might see a 7, might see a 6. Do you think the Knicks would be successful in that spot?
Absolutely. I was also scared, by the way, in the Nuggets game. It was a 2.5-point spread. They win that game by 10 points. I didn't take it. I was scared to
Knicks
take
at
it.
home have been a problem.
Problem this year.
Problem.
And again, there's the stat that you were talking about with, the Knicks can't beat good teams crowd.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
There it is right there. Tough week. Knicks Muse on Twitter. Tough week for the Knicks can't beat good teams crowd. 10-point win against the Nuggets, 37-point win against the Grizzlies, and then a 23-point win against the Kings. I mean, they're clearly showing that they can get the job done. I'm going to come back and say I was very quick to, I guess, knock them after the showing against the Celtics in the first game of the season. Now, let's take it with a grain of salt, though, because the Celtics shot unbelievably and were unconscious from three.
And it was ring night.
Banner night, all that BS.
You know what I'm saying?
I, at the end of that game, said, again, I know it's the first game of the season, but I still said, I don't know if the Knicks can beat a team like that in a 7-game series. I am not going to say that I've completely changed my thought, but there is a little bit more of belief in there that it's possible to get it done.
One thing I've noticed, too, versus good teams, besides the 120 versus the Kings, they play at unbelievable pace. The defense has been very good, especially in that Grizzlies game. Now, I think it was a little bit of a size advantage, but I pointed out how Cavs' paint defense, I had a stat earlier in the season that it was very, 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 very all-time bad. Obviously couldn't have been that bad to carry on the season. Probably dropped from 72%, I hope, to somewhere in the 60s. And it shows the result versus the good teams. And you guys have a stretch coming. I think you put up part of it. I think the next month, you guys have L.A., Houston, both at home. I'm very intrigued by that Houston matchup. Then, on the 8th of February, you guys have Boston at home. You guys go to Cleveland, go to Boston, go to Memphis, go to L.A. to play the Lakers and the Clippers. We could see what the real spill is about the Knicks in that stretch. How do you feel? How do you think you guys will do in that stretch?
It's another chance.
I want to see how they
prove.
do on the road. Because we talk about 7 games. We talk about 7-game series. You guys are insane at the crib. We know that. Something I've seen from the Sixers over the year, being insane on the road and then being, even if you're over 500, but it's not so great being insane at home and not so great at the road. In these 7-game series, always comes back to haunt you. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to continue proving, especially having these games at home. They also will be able to, I believe it's the last day of the month in February, hosting the Sixers at home. Yeah. Again, that's always we'll see who plays. I mean, did you see the stat on Embiid? It's like 44% of the games.
Yeah, it's insane.
We can then, can we create that, not to go completely off topic from the Knicks, but can we put Embiid in the category of bag stealers with Kirk Cousins, with Ben Simmons? I mean, we're almost talking about half of the time.
Those guys don't have MVPs. Oh my God, there's a stat.
But where are the Sixers if he's playing right now?
It was the highest player. It's the highest player efficiency ratings the last 25 years. He was 1 for one season. He was 3 for another, 5 for another. When he played, no. Because his production is way. It's 10x both the guys you named. He's not. I can't give him bank robber. And plus, what he plays on hurt too. I mean, he was only got to drop 50 last year on one knee and Bell's palsy disease. So I can't call him a bank robber. That's a lot to call a guy a bank robber.
The big one.
I saw someone saying what ifs too. I can't even say that's a what if. I mean, maybe a what if. Maybe in terms of championships. Maybe if he stays healthy. But what ifs? I mean, I can't really what if a guy every time he's on the court's a walking 30.
The one thing that I will say that's still true for the Knicks is, at least we've seen time and time again, these guys aren't getting worn out by the minutes that they're playing.
I have a theory that I think it's good that they're playing all these minutes. I think your body gets used to it, I think
so too, especially with conditioning and all that kind of stuff. But more so late in the season, I said it before, where you get a 6-game series, a 7-game series, back-to-back series or 6-7, and then we're going to the Eastern Conference Final and we just played 6-7, game series. That's kind of essentially what had happened last year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there were some injuries and OG wasn't really playing, and there's Brunson and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that those conversations may come up again if they start faltering down the stretch and into the postseason and the playoffs. I don't know. I think it's possible that they can make a deep run. I think it's naive not to say that at this point. But with this stretch, this is something that I'll be able to prove if they are a championship contending team, legit. Not so a team that can make a deep run and have a shot. This stretch just shows that if they stay hot, that the New York Knicks are a championship contending team.
That Houston game at the crib is what I'm really paying attention to.
I even want the Celtics at home too. That's next Saturday.
Yeah. Again on Saturday, another monster matchup. Got Duke UNC. Duke's minus 13.5. Haven't got to talk about my boy Cooper Flagg on the pod yet.
True freshman.
What a fucking year! Like I can't.
The lottery pick.
Maybe so. I think. Am I getting old or am I getting sensitive? Was he receiving I feel like a good bit of hate coming out of high school, or just people I feel like it's kind of hoping he would maybe fail in a way, or maybe not be as good as we think because maybe he's going to Duke or what his story. I love Ace Bailey. Like Ace Bailey's fun to watch. The guy, his offensive bag is very fun to watch. But Cooper Flagg might be my favorite freshman to watch in college basketball. It might be my favorite college basketball player to watch right now, just because I think he plays the game correctly. Pretty sure he leads. I don't know if he leads him right now, but there's points in the season that he still might. Was leading Duke in every single major stat category down to steals and blocks. This motherfucker's flying around on defense, fronting the post, getting a steal on the pit dunk. He's fronting the post, getting a steal out the post after fronting it from fighting from behind. Gets over half court, 3 dribbles, bangs on somebody. Next possession to come down, get a dime, then gets you to the post game. I'm really hyped to watch Cooper Flagg in this matchup with the Cameron Craze on this side and a high energy matchup. But I don't know. Like, where are you going to go in this game? It's a high spread for a
it's a high spread. I'm probably going to end up taking that 13.5.
Really?
I was also looking at the over-under and 149.5.
Really?
Slightly favored towards the under. I kind of want to lean towards the over here. You have
I don't hate that.
Duke averaging 80. UNC's right around the same. It's like 82.3, something like that. UNC also is allowing 76 per game.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about what could be a high-scoring game. But we could see what we saw. I believe that was the Wake Forest game. It was like 63-49, something like that with Duke. But I think for me, it's Duke 13.5 and over 149. Look, the UNC team has been slightly disappointing.
Yeah.
So
some exciting young bulls on that team.
And again, you get this game at the crib.
Young Seth Trimble, Mel Trimble's younger brother.
You know how this rivalry is and how good Duke is this year compared to the slight disappointments that we have at a UNC. You don't think that rivalry and that, that court's going to be rocking on Saturday? Like,
it's going to be insane.
I think obviously everybody's going to be, and Cooper Flagg especially, going to be feeding off that energy. 24 and 4 the last 5, had 28, I believe, last Saturday. They also, the other thing too is like, they were 22-point favorites last week.
That's what,
and then they only won that game by 10. I was gonna say
that's
State.
I kind of am a little skeptical because they were scared by NC State. That game was closer than 10 points for the majority of that game down the stretch as well. Then Wake Forest, I believe they had to come back, or Wake Forest came back in the second half. I think Duke had to come back. Wake Forest had control of that game. Obviously, at Wake, that's a big game. But 2 games where you're kind of struggling coming in, and then I looked at North Carolina's schedule, and there's a couple. I mean, they've gotten waxed a couple times by some teams that you don't want to get waxed by. But they lost by 3 to Kansas. Got waxed by Auburn. I had that in there. Michigan State's one of the better teams in college basketball right now that people didn't think they were going to be better at the beginning of the season. They lost to Michigan State by 3. Lost to Florida by 6, which is one of the best teams in college basketball right now. That's pretty much it. There's nothing too impressive after that. They beat NC State, lost to Wake Forest by 1. So those are 2 matches that kind of taken Duke to the brink. But for some reason, I feel like this is a matchup where people are going to be Duke.
Yeah.
In a season where, in this rivalry, I don't think people are hitting North Carolina. Yeah, because I want to say, like, I want to lean North Carolina because I feel like in this matchup, I don't care what the 2 team standings are. I think North Carolina feels like they could always beat them, bro. And you got R.J. Davis there. It might be his last year of the rivalry. He's already taken them out enough times to be able to feed into some of these young guys who are playing in their first matchup. I have a weird feeling North Carolina loses by like 7 or something. Game's tight. You want to tune in. You know what I'm saying? 6 minutes left. You're like, oh, Duke's up by 1. Oh, let me tune in and go on a little run. Win by 8. I feel like the game script, something like that. Public being North Carolina is telling me something, though. Maybe the Duke might have to make roll these boys. Like I said, this is, I think, one of the best Duke teams I've watched in a while. And, like, up there with that Zion. It's crazy. They're not better than the Zion team, I think, on paper.
Do you think this team can
play hoops?
Do you think this team can get it done this season?
Yes, they can.
Plus 400.
I don't know if they will because there's so many.
Duke
teams.
and Auburn are both plus 400 to win
there's
this whole damn thing.
There's so many teams, man. I mean, and then you could Auburn's in there, and then you can take any team out the SEC. Like you already see Alabama and Florida right there.
Yep.
If you hit show more, you probably see 2-3 more SEC teams off the rip, bro. Yep, Tennessee's there. Like Kentucky's there.
Down 3,000.
Like there's so many teams in the mix. No one's really talking about Purdue. Purdue's looking really good in the Big Ten because Michigan State's kind of taking that shine right now. I wouldn't place a bet on anyone that low in the odds, college basketball. But Dave Portnoy did with UConn. He cashed the fuck out. So.
Yeah, that's true. But you got the money to lay like that. Why not?
Last Saturday game, the Rangers. ABC.
Very important.
Versus the Boston Bruins. I think it's in Boston, no?
It is.
In Boston, 3:30 game. The line I saw on Bet Rivers was minus 115 for the Rangers, minus 105 for the Bruins. Will you be taking the boys? The odds have dropped. We talked about the odds with the check-in. They were plus 1,000. I think they dropped a little bit, or plus 1,000 to win the East. I think they're plus 1,400 to win the East now, and I think they're a little bit like maybe plus 3K to win the Stanley Cup. We're taking a little bit of skid here. There's some alarm sounds going off. You already said you were kind of selling on the team, so.
Yeah, I would definitely still take them to make the playoffs, but this is a must win. They're 5 points out of the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Bruins with a win, this would, based on what happens tonight, but this would slot them into that second wild card spot. 5 points out, they got to win this game, especially after the 10-game stretch where they went 7-0-3 in a 10-game stretch after what was it, like a 4-15 January or December. Like they fell off a cliff in December, brought things back, and then there was a 10-game streak with that 7-0-3 record. Igor's been balling out since he came back off the IR. This has to be a must win. Me being biased, I'm gonna take them. Obviously, I feel like this could get up to even money. Right now, I believe the money line is minus 108. Yeah, it's minus 108. That could get up to plus 100, which regardless, I'm going to be taking them because they have to win this game. You can't get momentum and then find a way to just fall back off it. You have to keep that moving, especially as we're getting a little bit closer to the break. Got to go into the break with a stretch of good hockey. And every year, at least these past 4 or 5 years of watching them, it's always like, is the window closing? And I feel like
this is the year where that shit.
You sneak
into the playoffs, wild cards, you get trounced round one, and that shit.
Then it's like, all right, well then
who's getting sold?
Like
how's my man Zibanejad doing? He's having a good year. I haven't heard a lot
not
about
really.
Zibanejad. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot about Zibanejad.
He bounced back after the hate that he's received the past month. They put him on a line with Will Cooley and Riley Smith. He's starting to get back. He said to reporters he feels good. It's just one of those things. I mean, he's 31 years old. There's a lot of guys up there that are getting in there. Kreider's the longest tenure Rangers. Yeah. He's up there. It's one of those things where you can start to create the argument: is the window closing, or did it close last year? Does it close at the end of this year?
And some of these teams are only getting stronger. I didn't even ask you
Capitals.
About fucking the Hurricanes got ranting it,
bro. I mean, and
like people are just getting better, bro.
When the Rangers got shut out by the Hurricanes, people were like, oh, Rangers are mid. Did we just forget that 4 days prior to that game, there was a massive trade that just bulked up Carolina? Yeah. Like, I'd be – last year, Rangers beat them in the playoffs. This year, there's no way. First of all, they got to get there first, and I don't think they can get there to play him. But it's going to be one of those things. This is a good matchup. You can put me being a homer and biased as hell, I would go Rangers and Knicks, depending on what that damn money line is.
I don't think they have the Knicks up on FanDuel yet.
No, they don't. God damn it. But that would have been something that I'll probably end up looking. Just be a homer, and it'll probably be the Knicks will get an easy win. There's no AD, and then it'll be the Rangers that sell, in Boston. But it's one of those things. They have to stay hot now. And then you talk about the Flyers getting rid of Morgan Frost and Joe Farabee to the Flames late last night.
Definitely good players. I like watching both of them play, but
look to see if every
I don't got enough attachment to that team to care enough. Fuck 'em.
Every year we talk about the Flyers and say, when are they going to start being buyers? And it's not coming anytime soon.
Still selling.
You need,
selling. Torts and Michkov getting little arguments on the bench and shit.
Diehard fans are saying they need another 4 or 5 years, man. Just to even.
Right. You got this is where you buy in. This is where you buy in. You learn the team a little bit. You learn the pain. You know what I'm saying?
Which is where I would then say, at that point, Flyers and Rangers could completely flip. Obviously, I'm probably jumping the gun there.
Right.
But in terms of where the Rangers have been, where the Flyers have been, there could be a jump there.
Hopefully. Pebble
Beach and the PGA is off to a hot start.
Facts.
Saw some hole-in-ones yesterday.
Facts.
Plus 6,000 Shane Lowry. Plus 6,000 Rory McIlroy. Unbelievable. Plus 450 was the hole-in-one in the first round. And for non-golf bettors out there, some tidbits that I've gotten about hole-in-one betting is you just take a hole-in-one in every tournament. It's usually like minus 110, plus 100, but it's just you just take it every tournament. If you want to go a step further and like look at the course and look at the course stats and look at how many hole-in-ones have been on that course and yada yada, you could do all that. But for a casual golf bettor, one of those things where you can make some type of profit by just taking a hole-in-one. If you want to get greedy and put a couple bucks chump change on, some guy to get a hole-in-one, which is, obviously highly unlikely. I feel like those odds have to be greater than that.
I would think the same.
You know what I mean? I understand they're pros and they've done this many times.
No, I agree.
But plus 6,000 for a hole-in-one? Just saying $10 wins you 600? I feel like you should, if you're going to put $10 on it, let's just say.
Might want a band.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, you got to be at plus 10,000.
You got to get their profit. It can't get killed too much.
It's been getting.
I do want to ask you about our friend Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
Who, I guess he's tearing the course up. I'm trying to look through the scoreboard on FanDuel, which is fucking fire now. The live golf scoreboard on FanDuel. Legit.
Yeah, can you just explain that for a second?
They legit tell you what hole they're on, shot, how many yards away, fairway, rough, how many yards to the pin, if it's green side bunker, if it's far side bunker. Like, shout out to the FanDuel live scoreboard. You know what they're doing? You can watch on that motherfucker.
You can. That means if you're not even able to watch it and you're about to place a bet, you can know exactly where that player is on the course, what shot, where he is, how many yards away before you place the bet.
We see greens in regulation. Patty Cantlay's 26 for 29, which is insane to me. You got longest drive on here. So shout out to the live.
I think that's a very hot thing to do for FanDuel to
very
increase golf betting wagers.
Absolutely. And talking about our guy Scotty Scheffler. So before the show, we were talking, and I was like, would you take Scotty to win? That was plus 850 about 30 minutes ago. When I opened the app just to preload this conversation, he was already down to plus 550. I opened the leaderboard to check what was going on, went back to check what Scotty's doing. He's now, okay, no, he didn't drop anymore. So he's still, no, he dropped to, whoa, what is this thing? Yo, can I just see the fucking, to win? Thank you. He's plus 600. I thought he dropped some more. I was making sure I ain't seen nothing crazy. But would you take a stab with Scotty this one off the wrist surgery? Not the most ideal offseason for him. He's probably had better ones in the past with the new kid as well. Maybe a little adjusting. We don't know how much he's been out there lately, but he seems to be adjusting just fine. Would you take Scotty in this event to win it at plus 600? You probably would have been lower to start. Or would you look for him in other events?
I think even if he were to win this one, I probably wouldn't, just because it's Friday, not the time to take him at that value. But just judging off of one singular season last year, we don't have to go back to 2023 or 2022. We can do that if we want. But judging off of last year, in terms of making a profit on golf betting, if you just
take Scotty, man,
take Scotty, and you could take him. Even like top 5,
just take him.
Barely plus money, plus 110, plus 130.
He's plus 120 to get top 5.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things. You can be a profitable golf bettor by just sticking with the guns and riding with Scotty
Absolutely.
Scheffler. And that's one of those things where I would say I don't think you fade that this year at all.
No.
When he hoisted the Masters,
I think until the wheels fall off, you take Scotty in most
we
events.
were saying this could be like, this is one of the greatest seasons that we're ever seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, is this going to stop? And we both were like, no.
Mm-mm.
So it's like, if you want to be profitable, because I personally am not the greatest golf bettor, I just think it's very, very hard.
It's so fun.
And like, It is very fun. But for me, I struggle with, obviously you want to get the big payouts, and the big payouts are picking either a first round leader or, to win the tournament. Those are the same value.
What I've been doing the last couple of years and where I've made some money, I think I told you this a couple of times, especially when Halvin had to run and win a couple events. Just watching at least some parts of Friday, just catching something on Friday, seeing what the course is playing like this. The program's different because we're playing different courses, but usually when it's one course, just seeing what's going on Friday at least, and then tapping in on Saturday, and then Sunday morning taking a winner. Because it always will be like the guys who are in first and second off by a stroke are like plus 260, plus 380. Then the guy that's like a stroke back, 2 stroke backs on gettable courses, they'll be like plus 1,200, plus 800. You get even the guys, even we can get plus 3 to 1 on a guy that's only a stroke back. Like you could get real snipey on Sundays and Saturdays. That's something I'm gonna do way more this year. Like on way more events, I was picking my spots way more last year. But I think for every event, I'm gonna start looking Saturday, Sunday, and trying to take some live winners, bro. Because that's where you could get really sharp. He's already down to plus 400, man. He might have buried the hole he was on where I was talking about.
And like sometimes you can get like the one thing at least that Kenny has put out that's a lot of fun to kind of bet on is those those matchups, right? The 2 balls, the 3 balls. If it's, Rory, Nick Taylor, and, a Justin Thomas in a group, you can pick a winner of that. And you can parlay that with, like, multiple different groups and get, let's say you do 3 guys from 3 different groups in groups of 3. You have a 3-leg parlay. You're looking at, plus 3,000.
The 2 balls and 3 balls are really fun. I always look at like what parlays Canes are taking, and I take like a couple straight, and it's usually always good money. They had the matchups, which I sent you, they're doing more this year, but the 72-hole matchups, I like that. And the fact you could live bet it, I like that. I don't know if they sell the odds from what I sent you this morning because there were some juicy odds. It's probably all locked now, but I'm going to definitely be tapping into that market. Like, what's Mercado was what, 180 now?
He's minus 150. He was plus 190 before they teed off.
That's something I would have taken. Like, if I was.
Absolutely.
But, like, I'm going to watch that. Like, every week we can watch that market, especially on the Friday show, too, and to have some things for coming on here and ripping. But that's a market I'm going to definitely tap into.
And, again, we're getting right into the probably, I mean, I shouldn't even say arguably, but the most fun tournament of the year for the fan in the Waste Management Open out in Phoenix. And those are always fun.
You had a Scotty narrative.
Scotty's won that twice. You had the big Kenny win on Nick Taylor last year. Can Scotty come back and win 3 of the last 4?
We go win the Phoenix Open? Or do we go for the 3-peat at the Players?
Or do we go for the 3-peat at the Players? Shout out the Kansas City Chiefs.
His odds might be a little low, but you probably have to take it.
You probably just have to take it just for the 3-peat. Yeah, that's probably exactly what once we get there in May, that's exactly what I'll be doing. All right, let's get over to back to NBA, where we can talk a little about these All-Star snubs.
Yeah. All-Star list came out. So I was going to rank mine by the conference, but I'm going to let you start because you have your
yeah,
top
well, I just
snubs
wanted to
overall.
say, like, are you happy with the All-Star lineups and who was chosen, or is this more of like this is who should be in, they got it wrong?
I think a couple of them are wrong. That's why I'm gonna rank them. I think a couple of them are you could have slid some guys in and out. It kind of sucks because like All-Star's kind of losing its like it's kind of like I don't know, it's losing its meaning for me. How bad the fucking game's gotten. Like hopefully this year the game changes or something. It probably won't happen this year, but usually I'm a little more not emotional, but there's usually more like obviously like Reese not getting in. Like usually I would be way more emotional about something like that, but I almost don't even like. Not
what do
that
you mean?
I don't
It just
care.
doesn't carry like the
It doesn't carry the same weight anymore because I think the game just sucks. You know what I'm saying? And like I think part of the reason they want to kick this game back up and get it more competitive is that there's more conversation on the All-Star. There's usually more conversation on All-Star like weeks ago. You know what I mean? Who's going to get in? What's this rate? Like, there was really none of that. But, yeah, I do feel bad for some guys that got snubbed, so I do want to shout them out. But I want you to start with your top. You did top 5 overall, which I like. I went conference by conference.
Yeah. So, like, I just did, Norman Powell's a good one for me.
Great one. Great one. He should win most improved.
He's getting a lot of noise right now because of Kawhi Leonard's, absence and what he's been able to do without him. Like I told you before the show, some outlets, a bunch of the articles that I was reading about Norman Powell is that he should be slotted in instead of James Harden.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We got to get clicks and shit. I understand. We're not going to do that.
I do understand the narrative. I do understand the point being because Kawhi was out and has been out. Right. So that does make sense. Obviously, I think the biggest one on the board, if we're just talking from Western Conference, is Sabonis. And I think that's the biggest one for me, too.
Great shot.
I feel like the question can be asked, what more does he have to do to get in?
Is it 21, 14, and 6 he's averaging? Yeah, I don't know.
What more does he have to do at that point?
Nah,
so then it goes to the point where we were just talking about, does this title of, making an all-star, being an all-star, does that carry the same weight? And I guess at this point, for Sabonis' point, number one, he probably doesn't care too much.
At this point.
And number two, what more does he have to do?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Another big one for me would be Tyrese Maxey and LaMelo Ball. I think both of them.
A lot of conversation about those two.
Yeah, and I didn't put Trae Young in there either, but
he's the biggest in my opinion.
He's in the category with LaMelo, and I would even slot Tyrese in there of judging off of team success.
Possibly, yeah. I think Trae Young might be the biggest though.
And then lastly, my other Eastern Conference one was, New York Knicks, Josh Hart.
That's hilarious.
I mean, but come on.
What is this Josh Hart thing?
37.5 minutes a game.
We're not going to get somebody in this fucking All-Star game because of minutes.
6 triple-doubles.
All right.
If you just want to talk about, how much he means to the New York Knicks, we could argue that this signing with Josh Hart to the Knicks was one of the best of all time.
Low key.
I mean, we could start that argument.
It was very good. It was very good. I don't know about one of the best of all time, but it was very good.
It does.
Josh Hart flowers, but hell no, I can't do that. But that's W Josh Hart flowers. I like the homerism on the show because you're gonna make up for me. I'm gonna start with my East snubs. I'm gonna rank them. So out of these guys, I have Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Maxey, Franz Wagner, and Hallie.
I think Franz is a good shout.
So this is how I would rank them. I think Trae's the number one snub, unbelievably. It doesn't make any sense to me how consistent he's been over the years, and he just keeps getting stuff from All-Star games. I have a stat here from Underdog NBA. Players in NBA history that average 22 points a game, 10 assists, and not to be an All-Star. Trae Young this season, Trae Young in 2023, Russell Westbrook in 2021, and Michael Adams, shout out to you, my guy, in 1991. Very short list, and it seems to be a Trae Young dominated list. He's my number one East snub. My number 2 East snub is Tyrese Maxey. Now, maybe if our record was a little bit better, but it's way worse without Maxey. Too many 30 balls, too many 40 balls. I'm pretty sure he's third in scoring since I want to say some point in December or some point in January, and then in the league. It's been absolutely frying. Teams just had 43 versus the Lakers. If you've tapped into enough Maxey, enough Sixers games, it's very, very clear over some of these guys in the list. I ain't going to get into bashing off players too much, but should easily be over them. Third, I have LaMelo Ball. I have him slightly below Tyrese. I think, and we can get into this debate with the All-Star about how much does impacting winning really matter to the All-Star. But I just think with Tyrese, the play he's been given this year with PG and Joel missing more that amount of time, and being able to keep the Sixers at least in the hunt for the playoffs, where with the Hornets we think they have no shot. That was plenty of people think the Sixers have no shot, but they're realistically in the hunt. I had to put him there. 4, I'll put Franz. Missed time, too much missed time, but he would be higher if he was healthy. That guy's a dog. And then this is from Underdog NBA too. They had Hallie on this list. He's trying to get together. Still my guy, but Hallie, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You ain't get snubbed, bro. Forget about it. In the West, the list is Sabonis, Fox, Kyrie, Powell, Booker. So this is kind of hard for me.
I was gonna put Booker on my list.
Number 1, I'll go Sabonis. Missed some time earlier in the season, but he's been. I mean, it's like you said. What more do I have to do? Man. 2, I have Kyrie, and this could get some shade. Put him over Powell, who I would have third. But I think Harden's running that show, and I think Norman Powell's. I think he's averaging 23, 24. So he's
right.
But
But
I just think when Kyrie's playing for the Mavericks, he's running that show. They're getting enough wins versus very stiff competition in the West.
And talk about injuries.
You could say the
Luka's
same.
Not there either.
That's what I'm saying. You could say the same for Norman Powell and the Clippers, but I think since I have Kyrie fully driving that bus to where I think it's a co-thing in the Clippers, and you can put more usage and more pointing fingers at James Harden, I'm going to put Norman Powell third. 4th, I'll put Fox, which I still think he's having a good year. But I think there's just still more guys at the West that they probably, and especially in the guard position, that they put over Fox. And then Book's a good shout too. Book over it was I think December and in November there was a stretch there where he was frying, crazy efficiency. He's still playing very well. Book is, of course, you would love to see Book in there, but there's some guys you put over him. I'll put Book 5. But yeah, I think Sabonis and Kyrie in the West is some stuff.
Well, some of the other things.
I think Trae Young and Maxey in the East is.
At least in some of the things that I saw with Kyrie is what from his accolades in years prior that he's made multiple All-Star games, that would have a little bit of weight to slot him in there. Yeah. He's made a bunch before.
I mean, no offense to Steph Curry. Steph Curry All-Star. He's living off pedigree this year. I ain't trying to draw. I ain't going to go try and take it too far, but because you got to put Curry in there. I'm just saying, guys. Some guys getting there off a pedigree for sure.
For sure. On that Warriors point, you had Draymond Green calling out Cat on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that beef.
What do you say?
I just have to pull this up so I can read this because it was after the Nuggets loss and there was some beef. Here it is. One for $2.9 million. Cat in a full front on Joker. Even if you win the game, it don't matter. You will never hold the respect from an opponent to win at the highest level. Pride must make you sit down and guard, even if you give up 40. Winning is a mindset, and in order to win a championship, you have to win the mental edge. That's why only a few guys per era win all the championships. They understand that thing. He did get a lot of hate.
I kind of agree.
For that tweet.
Now listen, not everyone. I'm pausing, but everyone can't everyone can't play Jokic straight up in a post, man. But it's like the thing I told you with the stat I gave you earlier in the season about Cat's field goal percentage given up in the paint. It's very high. I just don't think Cat's a great paint defender yet. I think he can be. I think he'll develop into a better one. But you know what I'm saying? Dre's going to get his shit off because Dre ain't fronting. I mean, he probably has a lot of reps fronting Jokic because of his size. But if Dre was 6'11", 7 foot, he ain't fronting nobody. He barely front nobody now. So I understand Dre. He going to call that out. You know what I'm saying?
Cat's in a perfect place, though. And he's
Cat's cool.
Now.
Cat's cool. Man.
We got it. I mean,
Cat's cool.
We should not be throwing shade at Karl Anthony Towns this season.
He don't like seeing big guys front, man. He thinks it's soft. I think it's
soft,
too. Okay, yeah. Play behind that man. Play one-on-one.
Play one-on-one. All right, to the Super Bowl. We're going to break down some player props on this show for the quarterbacks and the running backs, with next week talking about the wide receivers. And what was the other? We got a little like tight ends in that too.
Tight ends,
yeah. So, at least from passing props, do you want to start passing props with quarterbacks, or should we start with the running backs?
Yeah, we can, because I was shocked by the line, but we can talk about it because go ahead.
So, passing props for these quarterbacks. You know what I've noticed? It's like very hard to navigate to where the actual lines are.
What's up with the?
You gotta go. It's just Super Bowl lines are just very weird.
You can get it. You can get it now. Yeah.
Okay. Player passing yards for Jalen Hurts. His line is over or under 210.5, and Mahomes' line is 251.5.
Yeah, it was intriguing to me when I first looked at it. So Jalen Hurts, I don't know if you saw, it might have been I think it was the NFC Championship game. His line was like 180, or like 189 or something like that. Books quickly adjusted, gave him the 210. It's in range for me. I don't want to do it, but the Chiefs are more susceptible through the air than they are through the run game. But I don't want to touch the Jalen Hurts line. Pat Mahomes is interesting. He actually does get this line a lot, but I was looking at some things in his Super Bowl history that made me take a backtrack. And actually, on the Mahomes topic, since we're already here, I was looking at his rushing yards specifically. And this is his Super Bowl history rushing yards. So his line is 29.5 for this game. 2019, he had 9 carries for 29 yards versus San Fran. 2020, he had 5 carries for 33 yards versus Tampa Bay. 2022, he had 6 carries for 44 yards versus Philly. In 2023, he had 9 carries for 66 yards versus San Fran. What do you think about Pat Mahomes' rushing yards over 29.5?
I actually was going to go, and I have it on here, over 5.5 rushing attempts.
I like it.
So he's got 11-7 in back-to-back playoff games. I'm not even going to go back to, previous playoff games for Mahomes, previous Super Bowl for Mahomes. I'm going off the fact of he had 11-7 in back-to-back playoff games. It's over 5.5. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about an Eagles defensive front that's the best in the league.
And in those games, you notice a theme there: Tampa Bay, San Fran twice, Eagles, all dominant 4-man fronts.
So when you put a little bit of pressure on him, even though doesn't like to do it,
right?
He's gonna have to go, wiggle his way out of the pressure and maybe find 1, 2, 6, 7 yard gains where I think you can get over 5.5 rushing attempts.
A question off of that. I said Pat Mahomes score last week. Do we take another look at him to score? A little short tutty wuddy. Did the odds adjust? Is he still plus 700?
Plus 370.
Wow, that's insane. Wasn't he like plus 700? Bro, I swear to God, I was like plus 700. Wasn't it like plus 700?
That was last week or something. I think it was last week he was like 600 or something.
It was like 600.
That.
That's insane. So they adjusted. He still might get in there, man. They in the red zone, they only have so much they could do, bro. I don't know if I'm going to take it with this line. Ooh.
Both quarterbacks to score is plus 642.
I don't love it too much.
I hate the value.
Yeah, I don't love it too much, but that's interesting.
And then at least for Jalen's passing line there at 210.5.
It's intriguing.
I feel like there's a lot of people that are just going to be not necessarily hating on Jalen Hurts, maybe looking a little bit too deep into the fact that he has been in a so-called straitjacket and not been able to air the ball out
and take the under
and just slam the under.
I think that's a horrible bet. I think the over is a great bet. I just don't know if I'm going to pull it yet.
I am not really
in a dome
to get to this is going to take a little bit to get to my point here, but I'm kind of staying away from Saquon Barkley in this game.
Okay, we'll get there.
You have 2 weeks for Andy Reid to prepare for Saquon Barkley. What has the question been? How can we stop Saquon Barkley in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, the answer is you can't.
Exactly.
How can you contain him?
I don't know if you can do that either.
And then force Jalen to throw the ball.
Right.
By that logic, I would be taking Jalen Hurts over 210.5. We remember he had 305 in the last Super Bowl with him. He's not shy of these moments
at all,
and he's got a better team. I think, and we just saw AJ.
That was a great deep ball, by the way, too.
We just saw AJ. I'm going to be looking a little bit more. I know we're going to get to the receivers next show. I'll be looking a little bit more to Devontae Smith. I think Jalen, the conversations that the Chiefs are having this week is let's force Jalen to beat us and not Saquon.
I think I can agree with that.
You have, since 2019, this stat has been flying all over media outlets. Since 2019 in the playoffs, the Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher.
Wow.
So if that stays true, then Saquon Barkley will be 100 down, below 100 yards. James Cook had 89 last week on the ground. Honestly, I feel like he will get 100 just because we've seen too much.
We can get to Saquon next, but yeah.
But you can't stop Saquon with this offensive line, but you can have conversations of how we can contain him.
But I mean,
and then
that could also
put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands.
That could also leave them susceptible to the big play in the back end too. So for Hurts, I think the 210's good. Let's look at some of these alt lines too, because I want to see if we were to give out some parlay pieces that are safe. What are some of these alt lines for both of them? Like Hurts, you can get 200 for minus 194. I like that. Is that
154 for 200 yards? Because you're at that point, you need 11 more yards to get his over. Because it's 210.5.
So if you want to put his 200 plus in the parlay, I actually kind of like it. I think he gets 200. Pat, let's see, 250 minus 120, 225 minus 230. I don't know. I would just take Pat's real line at that point. But yeah, I think you could take a hard look at Jalen Hurts passing yards. I don't know if I'm gonna pull it, but I feel like it's one of those bets where I'm going to watch the game knowing I was right and didn't bet it and be pissed the fuck off. So I might find a way to sneak his 200 plus into a parlay and then the Pat Mahomes over 29.5.
One that I do want a prop bet for passing for quarterbacks and passing props that I do want to talk about is Mahomes to throw an interception. Minus 102. It's scary because he hasn't done it since that Bills regular season game where he had 2. That was all the way back in November. Has not thrown a pick since then, which is insane. He did have 1 in that first Super Bowl matchup with the Eagles. We do remember that. The Eagles have forced 4 interceptions in their 3 playoff games and 10 total turnovers.
Didn't he have a pick for San Fran the last matchup? I think he had 2 picks. He had 2 picks in his first Super Bowl.
It's very possible. And again, you want to look at Eagles secondary. You want to look at Eagles defense. I think it is highly possible. And for him to throw an interception, yes, is minus 102. I think that's a look for a prop that I'll probably end up looking to take.
Really?
Based off of,
I disagree. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the Pat Kool-Aid. Maybe you're too sharp for me. You might be too sharp for me.
Well, we know that Mahomes gets a lot of his yards after the catch.
That's a fact.
That's a lot of underneath throws.
That's a fact.
But if you put him in a situation to throw that go route to Worthy, you throw that ball up, you try to go for the big explosive play. That's where it's gonna happen.
You're gonna have to turn the ball over versus yeah, bro. I could see it. I'm just too scared to bet that. You might be too sharp for me.
But if you were to bet that though, as an Eagles fan, you need a turnover at least to compete and even win this damn game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So by that logic, again, there's gonna be a lot of people out there that are gonna be like, why would you take him to do that? He hasn't had one in 2 months and all this and that. This defense for the Eagles scares me, and there's a lot of people riding with the Eagles right now because the team matches up very well against Kansas City Chiefs and is arguably roster to roster insanely better.
I think, I agree. I want to get to Saquon because you made a good point about the KC rushing defense, and there was 2 looks for Saquon I was looking at. First of all, I think his line on FanDuel when I looked was 112.5, which. As of recently, I'm not going to say overall, but as of recently, it's a little bit of a lower line for Saquon. You see some 118, some 115s. So it gets a 112.5. Another thing I saw is his rushing attempts was at 22.5. So
I looked at that too.
2 things for that. In the last 10 games for his rushing attempts, he's hit his over 6 times when it's been 22.5.
Let's not count the NFC Championship.
No, I counted that as well. I counted that. And then you can say, if you look at context, it was a blowout. And there was a couple other games in that mix of the last 10 games that the Eagles run were a couple blowouts. But also, to his over point, every game he's had 25 carries or more, he's gotten 119 plus yards. Why, even if you do think, because me personally, I could be wrong. Spags likes to run a lot of 6-7 man boxes, play some nickel DBs, just where a lot of his DBs are stronger at. Usually he only has 2 linebackers with Tranquil and Bolton in the middle. I feel like the Eagles will think they could run against that look, and then if not, we've seen Jalen Hurts do it enough at the line of scrimmage where if we see a numbers advantage on one side of the ball, if we see a lighter box, then we check into the run look where we see a lot of Saquon's big runs come in. With the trend of him getting 120 yards every time he's touched the ball 25 times, I think there would have to be something catastrophic to go on, in my opinion, for Saquon to touch the ball 25 times in this game. I mean, we think he's healthy. We saw the roller going on the calf, but I think he's fine. 2 weeks off. The season he's been having.
Don't we just stick to what's been working?
The switch in November that Kellen Moore made to just rely on the running game, where in some of those stretches you've seen him get 29 carries, 26 carries, 27 carries, and I think there was a point where they're like, all right, let's not kill the guy, but he'll get the ball when they got to give him the fucking ball. I don't see any reason to not take Saquon besides the point that you said that because you made a great point about the Kansas City running defense where how they haven't had, 100-yard rusher in a playoff game since 2019.
Yep.
So I went to look at KC versus run this year, and this was regular season. So I'm going to do a disparity of regular season and playoffs. Week 1 versus Ravens, they held Derrick Henry to 48 yards and 13 carries. Week 3, they held Bijan Robinson to 16 carries, 31 yards. Week 4, they held J.K. Dobbins, and I would say a good rushing offense, not really more so J.K. Dobbins putting in with these guys, but 14 carries for 32 yards. Week 10 versus James Cook, he had 9 carries for 20 yards. But in the playoffs, Joe Mixon, 18 carries, 88 yards and a touchdown. James Cook, 13 carries, 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think they can find some things on this playoff film to but get Saquon these gaps where I like his rushing attempts and I like his rushing yards over. And this is even giving me hope to even look at the 169 plus 500 from to break the playoff rushing record. And then I want to ask a question. Him on FanDuel to get 200 yards is plus 10. I think it's a lot. It's plus something. And at the all-time rushing record in the Super Bowl is 204 yards. I think it was set in 19.
Plus 1,600 for 200 yards.
Plus 1,600 to break the all-time Super Bowl record. Well, you have to get 205. But to break the all-time Super Bowl record, wouldn't it just make sense?
Because he didn't get the Eric Dickerson record?
Wouldn't it just make sense? We leave out of here with something. At least I think I might touch that 175 or the 169 plus 500. Just to have the value.
If he gets 200 yards, if he gets 175 yards, I would damn near say if he gets 150 yards, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl.
I agree.
Like, it's not possible at that point to not.
I agree.
We just saw what happens when he has 200 yards and he has a big breakout, 50-plus yard touchdown run. That is possible. Somebody I wanted to look at in terms of rushing yards, rushing attempts, is Isaiah Pacheco.
Interesting.
Do we remember Isaiah Pacheco in the Super Bowl 2 years ago was a large factor.
One of the biggest.
Big 10-yard runs, getting first downs in crunch time when it was needed. The game was back and forth. Why are we switching off that to more Kareem Hunt? Over 5.5 rushing attempts is minus 138. But his line for Pacheco is 20.5. If you take over 5.5 and you need 6 carries, I think Pacheco can get 21 yards and 6 carries. So in that sense, I would just take over 20.5 because the value is minus 110 there versus 6 carries at minus 138. I'm looking at Pacheco, and I'm not looking at Kareem Hunt.
So, yeah, I think just because of the Pacheco injury, it took him a while to get back. And then Kareem Hunt's been the hot hand. Like, it's funny. I don't disagree. I've looked at Pacheco every single game, especially the conference championship, because I thought they probably would ramp him up in that spot. But them not ramping up Pacheco in that spot and still kind of leaning on Kareem Hunt told me something. And then, like, you have Kareem Hunt, 2 straight games with touchdowns. He's plus 135 to score in this game.
He scored first last week, by the way.
Scored first, and he's probably another good candidate to score first in this game. 6 career playoff games, he has 8 touchdowns. His over 44.5 cash in the conference championship and lost by 2 in the divisional. We saw healthy carries in both games. The running back conversation with KC of who you take is very interesting. Where I think a lot of people, when they're looking at this board, are probably staying away. I think some parlay pieces, the people are probably alting Kareem Hunt down maybe to 40, 30. I would alt him down to 40 in a parlay. Maybe do like 40 for Kareem Hunt. Maybe do 200 passing for Jalen Hurts and find some other lines to throw in there. That's something you could possibly do. But yeah, it's a hard conversation to figure out who you're going to target running back wise. Me personally, I would go towards Kareem Hunt just because of the hot hand, recent playoff success, all-time playoff success. You could say the same about Pacheco, but he's just hotter and probably a little more healthy.
I also want to look at Xavier Worthy.
Love this.
Over
look.
5.5 rushing
yards.
yards.
Deep into this look.
2 for 16 last week against the Bills, and that's nothing to look at. You can put all the other bullshit aside. For the Eagles and this defensive line and stacking the box and getting to Patrick Mahomes, why not try something different? Why not do an end around with Worthy, get you 8 yards? Do something what they're not expecting, where we're not going to just shove Kareem Hunt up the middle against the big guns in that defensive front and try to get him 2-3 yards. Maybe it's a 3rd and 4 instead of a 3rd and 6, something like that. If you run, I just feel like he's going to get this. He may get 2 chances at this, 3 chances maximum to try to call that end around, get 6, 7, 8 yards. He'll get that over 5.5. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
It was interesting. Like you said, he got it last week, so I think more people are going to be looking at it this week. I look back into their season, so he's gotten a rushing attempt, at least one, in 12 games. 5.5, the line would have went 6-6. So to people seeing this line thinking, oh, this is guaranteed because of what happened last game, I wouldn't say it's guaranteed. I do think in a spot versus the Eagles, especially with their interior line pressure they could get. Jordan Davis is incredible in the run game, and then you have Jalen Carter, who is, you know what I mean, like people were saying, the second coming of fucking Aaron Donald. There's a lot of room for wrinkles to be in play. I think Xavier Worthy rush is very much in play for that. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger, but that's a line I looked at, and I wanted to look into what was going on this season with it. It wasn't automatic enough for me to say take it, but I'm definitely looking at it, and it's juiced. It's minus 115. It probably moved to minus 120. I think people just seen it happen last week. Going to be hitting that button more. It might be a stay away from me, but that was an intriguing ass look I saw.
Last one for running backs I at least want to touch on here is player longest rush. Mm-hmm. Saquon Barkley is 24.5. That's over minus 108, under minus 120. We've seen this last week. It was like 22.5. Mm-hmm. First play of the game. Mm-hmm. Cooked.
Yeah.
Do we think there's a possibility with the Chiefs running defense that we just talked about that he breaks one for 25 yards?
I think there is. I don't know if I'll take it, but I think there is, just because I think the Birds will be able to catch the Chiefs in packages where they have 5 DBs. You know what I'm saying? And we can check into an outside zone or something of the sorts like that. And Saquon breaks a tackle or 2 versus 2 DBs like we see him do versus Washington and spring a big run. I don't know if we'll get the 70-yard run, but 25-yard run for Saquon. I would have to look into his long runs, but I'd damn near probably be not automatic because the line's there, but probably a pretty high chance.
I'd look a lot at Jalen Hurts too. 11.5.
I just don't.
He can scramble himself for a 10-yard gain. You just need one more.
He didn't have to do it as much versus Washington. Obviously, the type of game it was, but off the knee injury, still don't know how much is lingering. His rushing yards, I think they bumped it up a little bit this week. I think it was up to like 30 something. And or 40.5, where I was like last week it was 30, and I said take the under, and it flew under. I wouldn't touch it. I don't know if this is not a week where I say take the under because it's the Super Bowl. Motherfuckers is gonna be laying it on the line, and Jalen Hurts rushing the ball. When you talk about laying it on the line, it's probably something he wants to do. I can't take it. I can't take Jalen Hurts rushing. Just what I know about his knee.
I was also like leaning for.
What do you think about passing leader? They had it in this game. Jalen Hurts was like plus, I think it was 2 something, maybe 3.
Do they have it in here?
Yeah, they got it in there.
Maybe it's on like the popular tab.
Maybe I don't know. I saw it earlier. Most passing yards. Yep,
most passing yards. There you go.
It's plus 1. Oh, he dropped. So he dropped since I seen it. It was plus 200 when I saw it. Plus 190. Knowing he's outplayed him in the first one.
Mahomes also only had 182 yards in the first matchup in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
This could be a fun bet you could throw in there.
Minus 260 for Mahomes' most passing yards.
Do like passing leader, Jalen Hurts. You go to like receiving leaders. Do like a sneaky Devontae Smith. Can you parlay that? Let's just check. Can you parlay that?
Okay, let's see.
Passing leader, the Birds leader parlay.
Yeah, the Birds leader, and then receiving props.
It's like a sneaky Smitty.
Most receiving yards.
AJ at plus 200 is even juicy.
Can you parlay? Yes, you can.
I think AJ at plus 200 is even juicy enough for me to take it, but I'd be down to take Smitty. Then you know you go Saquon with the rushing.
Yeah, I mean, which is probably like heavily favored. So, Jalen Hurts, most passing yards. Devontae Smith, most receiving yards, is plus 1,148.
I feel like Smitty has a big game. We'll get into it in the next show, but I feel like Smitty's due. AJ's due as well, and AJ's plus 200. So, but like that's gonna be a fun little parlay.
Yeah, I also just lastly on the point of Mahomes, I have never bet Mahomes to have a touchdown himself, a rushing touchdown. Mm-hmm. But you brought that to attention, and the value's plus 370. I absolutely hate the value. I do, but I do think that this is one of those games.
He just sneaks in there. Yeah, bro. Like, I don't know, man. I think that Pat and Jalen score, although you nuke the odds a little bit with Jalen's fucking.
The other thing that I want to know.
That'd be a fun bet.
With just flat out touchdown scores is I want to find, even if it doesn't happen, I want to find the guy that not many people are thinking to take to score a touchdown.
DeAndre Hopkins.
That's what I was thinking too. Because when you look at, the top touchdown scorers, Saquon Hurts, Travis, Hunt, and then there's Worthy there.
Dallas Goedert, bro.
So it just can't be the top 4 or 5 favorites down the list.
I'm telling you, bro.
It can't. That's where I'm like we gotta find
2 sleepers. I'm looking at the DeAndre Hopkins, Dallas Goedert. Where's Noah Gray, Justin Watson? This is like
Noah Gray plus 650.
Yeah, it's like a game where Noah Gray gets in there, something like that. Nah, I agree. We'll get into that closer to the game. But there's some shit I'm looking at.
All right, that's the props for QBs and running backs for the Super Bowl. We are heading into Media Week. If you did watch this episode on YouTube, make sure to drop a like, comment, and do not forget to hit that subscribe button. And Apple Podcasts and Spotify listeners, do us a favor, scroll to the bottom and give us those 5-star ratings. We will see you after the weekend. Focus up on college basketball, big NBA weekend, and then the Super Bowl coming next week. All Day Bets, Alex Jacobs and Manny Ruffin. See you next week.
Damn, my water lasted the whole show. That's like a first. Shit never lasted the whole show.